All right, so we have the pseudocode laid out. We have our helper methods written. Let's write the logic. So the first thing I'll do, I need my helper methods, so I'm going to keep those. And I'm going to define a function called Radix Sort. And it takes a list of numbers. And the very first thing after that, we need to figure out how many digits the largest number has. So we have this method, most digits. So let's make a variable called most digits or something like that. Max digit, let's do that. Max digit count equals most digits of nums. And then let's just print that out so we can see that it works. Okay, and then let's call Radix Sort down here and pass in a list of numbers with a couple small ones, some larger ones. Okay, so what is the max digit count of this? Well, it looks like it should be 4. The largest number we have is a 4-digit number. If we run the code, we get 4. All right, so now we know we need to loop 4 times. So we can start with that. Loop from k, it doesn't have to be k, but k equals 0 up to that largest number of digits. So let's write a for loop. For let k equals 0. K is less than max digit count, k plus plus. So this gives us an index k going from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3. So we can use that and pass it into this method getDigit. So we can ask for the 0 digit or the third digit. Okay, now that we have that written, we need to make our buckets. So I'm going to make a list. I'm just going to call it digit buckets with 1b. And we could, manually construct this, make an array, and then push in 10 empty arrays. But there's also an easy way, relatively easy. If we do array.from, and then in here, right here, if we pass in a length, set it to be 10, and then we tell each one to be an empty subarray. So if I just copy this over here and paste it in, if we look at what digit buckets is, it's an array of 10 empty arrays. So if I changed it slightly to be an array containing the string LOL, we end up with 10 sub-arrays, each with LOL as their one element. Not what we want, but we want an empty array. So now we have 10 buckets, 10 slots inside of this one larger bucket called one array called digit buckets, and they're all empty. Now we need to loop over every number. So this part's easy. Let's just do for let I equals 0, I is less than nums.length, I plus plus. So for each number, we're now going to take that individual number, which is nums I, and we're going to figure out at position k, so at index 0 of each number, what value do we get? And then k will change, of course. So we're going to do get digit of nums I, comma k. And so that will give us digit 3, 5, 7, 2, 5, the first time through. And then k will go up, and k will be 1. So then we'll look at this number, the index 1 number. And then I'll go up again, and we'll keep going. So we don't just want to get that number. We want to take that number that comes back, and then put nums I in the bucket at that index. So if I just print this out right now, it's going to be pretty ugly, but you'll see what we end up with. If we run our code, it's a lot of console.logs, but the very first time through, we end up with 3, 5, 7, 2, 5. So 3, 5, 7, 2, 5, 2. So we need to take those numbers. We need to put this number at index 3. This number, we got 5. We need to put it at index 5. So we could just do this. We could do it in one ugly line, which I don't like. Digit buckets of that result. So digit buckets of index 3 or index 5 or whatever we get back, dot push nums I. Now this is kind of a gross line in my opinion. I'm going to break it up. But if we actually do this, and let's just do it one time, and then let's just print out at the end of this loop digit buckets. You'll see, I don't want to count my eggs before they hatch, but everything should be in the correct spot. Like the first time through, we end up with all the numbers that have 2 as their first digit are in the 2 bucket. We have 23 in this bucket. We have these numbers that end with a 5 in the 5 bucket. So that's all working, but I just don't like how long this line is. So I'm going to break this up a little bit and make a variable called digit, just like this. Whoops, copied one extra part. And then we'll do index of digit, push nums I. So we're going to get the digit, so that will give us 3, and then this is just a way of breaking up the code. Digit buckets of 3 dot push the number. Okay, so we're almost there, but the one thing we're missing is after we break them into their buckets, we need to recollect them into a new array and do the same thing. Otherwise, we're just keeping them in the same order and then just sorting them into buckets. So we're sorting them based off of their first number, and then we're doing the same thing based off of the second number, but we're never actually ending up with a new order to the main list called nums. So we need to, afterwards, right here where we're printing out, after we've put them in the correct buckets, we need to then concat the array. So there's a nice easy way of doing this in JavaScript. We reassign nums to be array.concat, and then I'm going to use spread digit buckets. And I use the spread operator, the special syntax with the 3 dots, which if you're not familiar with it, it allows me to pass in all the arguments or every element in digit buckets as an individual argument. And the reason I need to do this, rather than just passing in digit buckets, is if we imagine, here, I'll do it down here, if I do a .concat, and let's say that I have 3 arrays, because this is an array of arrays, right? What we're looking at here. So let's say that digit buckets looks like this. It's very simple, but let's say it looks something like this. If I call array.concat, it's going to concat these into a new array, but they still are in separate buckets. If I want to take these numbers and just combine them back into the original form, so this, but in a different order, if I use the spread operator, the ... I end up with this, just the values there turned into a new array. So this is what I want. This is a nice, easy way. I don't have to manually, you could loop over digit buckets for each bucket, loop over all the values in that bucket and push them into nums or a new array. But this is a nice, succinct way of doing it. And that's all we need to do aside from returning nums. So let's do that. And let's see if it works. What I would like to do here is do a console.log. Let's go with digit buckets here. And then afterwards, after we concat back into nums, console.log nums. Okay, let's run the code. All right, so first time through, we end up with everything sorted, or not sorted, but everything put into the correct bucket based off of the 0 digit, the first one from the right. Then we concat this. So the order is preserved. Think of it as just smushing them all together into this array now. Nums looks like this. So we have 12, digit 2, followed by 9852, which ends in a 2, and then what ends in a 3 and a 5, and so on. So we took this order and just smashed them together. Then we went through and put them into buckets based off of this number. So you can see them here. So this is in slot 1, bucket 1. This is in bucket 2, bucket 4. And then we concat them again. So we keep this order and we end up with this. So each time we get a little more sorted, then we do it again and we look at the index 2, 0, 1, 2. So some of the numbers don't have a value there, in which case they're in the 0 bucket. So the smallest numbers are already in the correct bucket, but the 3 and 4 digit numbers are still working their way to their correct spots. So we concat again, we end up with this, and then one more time we put them in buckets based off of their index of 3 number, what digit is right here. And then we concat, we end up with this, we're done, and we return that. And that is Radix Sort. So I think it's kind of a fun one. Once you actually write the methods or you find the methods on Stack Overflow for getting a digit, counting digits, finding the most digits, the logic itself can get rid of the console.logs is relatively straightforward, I think. Aside from this, if you haven't ever seen this operator, This is just a simplification, a nice short way of doing this. But the idea of what we're doing, I think, is simple. We're separating things into buckets based off of a digit in a given position, and then we reform them into a new list or a new array, and then repeat it on the next digit for all of those numbers, and keep going until we've done it for every digit in the largest number. All right, so we'll talk about big O in the next video, and then we are done with sorting algorithms. All right.